The following program is sponsored by CBN.
Coming up, a CBN News exclusive. We sit down with Vice President Mike Pence. Then, the world-famous fishing duo.
I knew that I was going to make a living fishing, and I would tell everybody that.
Meet the Linder brothers.
These things happened out of nowhere.
And hear their secret to reeling in the big one.
All the barriers were gone.
Today on the 700 Club.
Welcome, folks. I want to tell you a saga of what used to be a great newspaper. There was a family called the Ox family. They owned the Chattanooga Times, and they moved from Chattanooga to New York City back in the 19th century, and they married with a family known as the Sulzbergers, and they bought the New York Times. And they made it into the greatest newspaper in America. It was the paper of record. So, for example, the TV news people, before they got underway, they would read the Times, they'd pick out the stories they wanted to do, then they would amplify them for TV that night. So what happened? There was a guy named Punch Sulzberger who had been a Marine veteran. He was a real fine person. And he ran the show, did a good job. They had some breaks. I had a little counterpoint with their editor named Keller, and I questioned his journalistic credentials. But nevertheless, Punch's son took over the New York Times. He is a dyed-in-the-wool liberal, very pro-homosexual, and the Times is no longer is a respected newspaper. It is a propaganda sheet. The editorials, the news has all blurred together. Instead of being the great paper of record for America, it's just become a left-wing rag. Now, it's unprecedented. They would print an op-ed by a so-called anonymous senior official. And I was talking to Terry, and we suspect the possibility that the Times actually made up that editorial because it isn't attributed to anybody, but it's the sorriest example of left-wing journalism I think that we have seen in America. And the writer claims those around the president are trying to frustrate his agenda, but to have anybody who would take a job, earn a salary, supposedly support the agenda of his boss, and turn against him in such a fashion, that is the worst kind of a betrayal, and it's the kind of person that no business would possibly want to hire. Well, that's the situation that Trump is finding himself in, and I don't buy it. You talk about fake news, it's really disgusting. And to think the demise of a great newspaper, this was a great newspaper. It's not great anymore. It's nothing but a left-wing rag.
Well, as you can imagine, Trump and most of the country would like to know who wrote that piece, if someone did. The president is also tweeting the deep state and the media are going crazy. He says the real stories are the booming economy and the likely confirmation of a second Supreme Court nominee. Dale Hurd has more.
The Trump administration and many in the media are trying to figure out the identity of Anonymous, a person claiming to be a senior member of the White House staff who wrote an op-ed piece portraying the president as a danger to the nation. Published by the New York Times, it describes a president who is impetuous, saying his impulsiveness results in half-baked, ill-informed, and occasionally reckless decisions that have to be walked back. Like-minded colleagues and I have vowed to thwart parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations. Americans should know there are adults in the room. We are trying to do what's right even when Donald Trump won't. President Trump called the writer gutless and blasted the New York Times.
When you tell me about some anonymous source within the administration, probably who's failing and probably here for all the wrong reasons, no. And the New York Times is failing.
Trump later tweeted treason and followed that up with the extraordinary demand that if the gutless anonymous person does indeed exist, the Times must, for national security purposes, turn him/her over to government at once. The newspaper said Wednesday that revealing the person's identity could cost them their job. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham defended President Trump on CNN.
To those who believe that this man is a fool, it's just the people around him that keep us safe, you don't know what you're talking about.
White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders called on Anonymous to resign. Even the Washington Post, no defender of the president, called the op-ed old news and a PR stunt. It comes on the heels of Bob Woodward's new book, Fear, Trump in the White House, which claims that Chief of Staff John Kelly called the commander-in-chief an idiot and that he's gone off the rails. Kelly responded, calling the book total BS, and Woodward does not name his sources.
Look, he may have hundreds of hours of tapes, but I think most of those probably come from some disgruntled former employees.
Media critic Dan Gaynor said the national news media is all too willing to believe any source that slings dirt on the president.
And of course, Bob Woodward is out there. Bob Woodward has been criticized in the past and now is criticized in the present for basically, fictionalizing stuff here. They've got lots of people in the Trump administration saying it's not true, and it relies on anonymous sources.
So who is anonymous? It could be any one of hundreds of officials, but some believe the pressure will simply be too much to keep their identity a secret, and we may know sooner rather than later. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
We've got to recognize one thing the president has done. We have the strongest economy in decades. We have the lowest unemployment probably ever, the lowest black unemployment ever. We have a booming stock market. It's incredible. The president has rolled back in countless numbers of dangerous regulations that were put in place by the Obama administration. And he's essentially unleashed the economy of this great nation. And to smear a man who's doing this is just ridiculous. We've got a tax cut. We've got all kinds of things going on. And it's remarkable. The average American is much, much better off financially than he was a few years ago. And the optimism in the country is soaring. So to say that this man is some kind of a unhinged idiot is just insane. This man is as good as we've had, and he's making wonderful decisions. And not to mention what he's doing with the courts. He's reshaping the federal judiciary with conservative, or I shouldn't say conservative judges, with judges who are true to the Constitution. And the last judge that he put in place has been a superb pick. Judge Kavanaugh is a superb pick. When I look at him in the questioning and to think of his recall, his incredible knowledge of the facts of all these things, it's just simply amazing. And I want to point out, too, the Democrats, this Kamala Harris, is one of the most obnoxious human beings that I have ever seen in public life. Have you ever seen anything like it?
Yeah, well, there seem to be several on the front, but...
Well, I mean, really. But, I mean, they're asking for documents that were produced when he was secretary of the cabinet or whatever in the Bush administration. He wasn't doing policy himself. He was trying to perfect the material that's being produced by other members of the administration. And that is all executive privilege. It's the Bush administration executive privilege. And Trump can't lift the executive privilege of the Bush administration. And for the Democrats to demand that, it's just, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's nothing but a stunt. So in other news, Senate Democrats tried to trip up the president's nominee to the Supreme Court during the second day of those confirmation hearings. John Jessup has more on that.
That's right, Pat. Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh is back on Capitol Hill after enduring nearly 12 hours of grilling by the Senate Judiciary Committee Wednesday. Democrats have not only been pressing him on potential decisions, some even question his integrity. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson reports.
It was a marathon day for Judge Brett Kavanaugh on day 2 of his confirmation hearing, with senators asking everything from his view on the document debacle.
That's, in my view, a decision for the committee in consultation or discussion with the executive branch.
To what his kids thought of the hearing.
They gave me a big hug and said, "Good job, Daddy."
Judge Kavanaugh, though, worked to keep his part all business.
My personal beliefs are not relevant to how I decide cases.
Senators like Dianne Feinstein, however, wanted to nail him down on hot topics such as abortion and learn exactly what he meant when he called Roe v. Wade settled law.
This is important precedent of the Supreme Court that's been reaffirmed many times.
And Kavanaugh's stance on whether presidents should be protected from criminal investigations.
Can a sitting president be required to respond to a subpoena?
I can't give you an answer on that hypothetical question.
The most contentious questioning came from Senators Patrick Leahy and Dick Durbin. They wanted to know if Judge Kavanaugh knew about emails in the early 2000s that provided Republicans information during the confirmation process of some of President Bush's judicial nominees. Leahy tried to tie Kavanaugh to former Senate aide Manny Miranda, who helped obtain the emails. Senator Lindsey Graham quickly gave Kavanaugh an opportunity to provide a straight answer.
Did you ever knowingly participate in stealing anything from Senator Leahy or any other senator?
No.
Did you ever know that you were dealing with anything that was stolen property?
No.
And Miranda himself provided cover during CBN's Faith Nation when he emailed an exclusive statement to Chief Political Analyst David Brody.
I can confirm that Brett Kavanaugh knew nothing of the source of any information that we obtained, nor did I ever meet with him privately or publicly to discuss it.
Brody says Democrats are trying to twist this into an opportunity to paint Judge Kavanaugh in a negative light.
Republicans will call it character assassination, but this is what you do when you really don't have the goods on a nominee.
Senators will have 20 minutes each today to ask Judge Kavanaugh another round of questions, and Chairman Grassley threatened to go into the weekend if needed to finish this hearing. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Thanks, Abigail. Pat, back to you.
Well, I want to say, I've said it before, the Republicans have the votes, the Democrats don't have anything. It's just a delaying tactic. And the more they continue, the more they're looking ridiculous. Some of these people are running for president. As a matter of fact, half of the Democrats are running for president. It's the biggest field I think I can imagine. They're all trying to go for president. So this thing, Chuck Grassley may well wrap this thing up this weekend. I would hope he does. And they'll take a vote. The vote will clearly, it'll be on party lines, but the Republicans have the majority. It'll be, so Kavanaugh's nomination will be cleared out of the Senate Judiciary Committee. It'll go to the full Senate. And without question, the vote will be there. There may be a few delaying tactics, but Harry Reid, when he was majority leader, killed out what's called a nuclear option. He used it before with Miguel Estrada and others to the circuit courts. And having done so, he opened the doors for the Republicans who took control to run these judges through on a simple majority. There's no longer that 30 vote margin or whatever they're looking for. Just a simple majority will will be sufficient for the advice and consent that's needed under the Constitution. So Kavanaugh is going in. It'll give the president a tremendous boost in his long-term approval rating. And then, of course, a number of other circuit and district court judges are waiting in the wings. They will confirm a large number of those as fast as they can. They'll be on the bench. But the idea is before the Supreme Court gets into its next session, Judge Brett Kavanaugh will be sitting among the justices. John?
Pat, the midterm elections are just 2 months away, and the Trump administration is focused on keeping keeping a Capitol Hill majority. And part of that strategy involves a busy campaign schedule for both the president and Vice President Pence. CBN's David Brody and Jenna Browder traveled with the VP on Air Force 2 and talked about what lies ahead.
Vice President Mike Pence on the road again. Crisscrossing the country, campaigning for Republican candidates in the days leading up to November's midterms. And this time, we're right there with him, on board Air Force Two, heading to Michigan. The Senate candidate he's stumping for, John James, a combat veteran and businessman.
You have been out on the campaign trail stumping for candidates. Do you think Republicans will keep control of the House and Senate?
I really do. The president and I are very confident that if we get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country, progress that's created nearly 4 million jobs, rebuild our military, has America standing tall in the world again, being respected again. We tell that story all across this country. We're going to make history in 2018 just the way we made history in 2016 by re-electing and expanding Republican majorities on Capitol Hill.
Out of the 35 Senate races, 9 are toss-ups. That's about 25%. In the House, 43 of 435 races are toss-ups, about 10%. In other words, it's going to be close, and history is against them. Typically, the president's party loses seats in his first term.
Part of the reason why we're traveling so much across the country, and the reason why we had an opportunity to talk to some of the great evangelical leaders in the country, is to make sure that the American people know that's the choice.
President Trump echoes that sentiment and ruffled more than a few feathers when he said there would be violence if Democrats take control of Congress. He made the comment at a White House dinner for evangelicals, which Pence was at.
Well, what I heard the president say was that if the Democrats take over the Congress, that their goal is to turn back everything that we've done for the American people.
Well, because he did mention Antifa and some of these leftist groups.
Well, sure.
So what's the concern there about some of these groups?
Well, obviously we condemn any examples of violence on the streets of this country. Zero tolerance for any violence against Americans.
And when it comes to impeaching the president,
there's a lot of talk about impeachment if Democrats do take control of the House. Do you think Nancy Pelosi is already plotting an impeachment strategy?
Well, they're all talking about it, and so I take them at their word, even though some of them have decided to not talk about that quite so much.
Many Democrats are banking on the Russia investigation and want to make this election about corruption.
We've been fully cooperating with the special counsel since the very beginning. Literally tens of thousands of documents. The White House has cooperated with testimony, and we'll continue to do that. But I just have to tell you, Jen, as I travel around the country, people just aren't talking about it.
One thing that's for sure, the fight over the control of Congress is going to get nasty. And Pence is already feeling some of it personally with a new book out that attacks his faith.
The Bible says, count it all joy when you endure trials of many kinds. And, anytime I'm criticized for my belief in Jesus Christ, I just breathe a prayer of praise.
Republicans hope to be able to breathe their own sigh of relief this fall. Of course, they have to fend off the so-called blue wave some are predicting. Aboard Air Force Two, the vice president remains hard at work, determined to not let that happen. Reporting from Air Force Two, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Thanks, David and Jenna. Pat, people on both sides of the equation see this as quite a consequential election.
Well, it certainly is. If the Democrats take control of the House, there will be unending investigations. Every committee you can think of will suddenly be forcing the president to release documents and to have the staff members appear for hearings and so forth. It'll be a zoo in Washington. As if it isn't bad enough now, it'll be horrible. Nothing will get done. The American people will be presented with a slaughter. And therefore, keeping control of the House is pretty significant. And to see those House Democrat, at least I should say the House Republicans up for election, the president and vice president do everything they can to see that they hold control of the House. Because as far as an impeachment goes, the Senate is where the decision gets made. You can have an impeachment, but look what happened to Clinton. The House impeached him, but the Senate, they have to get 2/3 vote, and they couldn't get it. And the same thing here, you couldn't impeach this president in a million years. So that's, it's just something that would smear him. Anything they can possibly do to hurt this man, because what he's done is take power away from Washington and give it essentially to the people. And the bureaucrats and the deep state don't like it. And you and I have got to recognize what the game is, that they want to defeat him in everything that he's doing because they hate the fact that they've lost power. That's the game. The power, the control of this nation was in the hands of these people, and it's been taken away from them, and they don't like that. Terry?
That's what draining the swamp was
That's
all
what
about.
and those swamp critters don't like to get drained. All right.
Well, coming up, you'll see how a group of unelected bureaucrats are rewriting federal laws and turning our country into a nation of criminals. To make matters worse, you're probably guilty of something. Find out why when we come back.
You probably don't know it, but you could be a criminal under federal law. As part of our ongoing series, Nation of Criminals, I've had our staff investigate the thousands of government regulations that could send you to prison. CBN's Jennifer Wishon started our in-depth reporting yesterday. And in a moment, we'll talk with a renowned Regent University law professor about how easy it is to run afoul of the law. First, an excerpt from Jennifer's story that explains how government bureaucrats have turned America into a nation of criminals.
If you get out of bed today, there's a good chance you will commit a crime. There is no one in the United States over the age of 18 who cannot be indicted for some federal crime. That is not an exaggeration, says John Baker, a retired law professor from LSU.
Here at the Library of Congress, this is the Federal Criminal Code. Its pages hold some 5,000 criminal laws passed by Congress and signed by presidents. That's a lot, but it's only a drop in the bucket when you consider there are hundreds of thousands of federal regulations that carry criminal penalties.
I've seen the estimate of at least 300,000, it's probably more like 400 or 500,000 regulations that carry criminal penalties.
Federal agencies are often given tremendous power by Congress to create regulations that carry criminal penalties and can drastically affect people's lives. Power that's been upheld by the Supreme Court.
Unelected bureaucrats are making regulations that can land you in jail.
Sure, and it's a huge number. We all have one thing in common, me included, which is at one time or another, we have probably violated some criminal regulation. We just don't know it, and we were lucky enough not to get caught and prosecuted.
Well, Professor James Duane from Regent University School of Law joins me now. He's a former defense attorney and author of a book called, quote, You Have the Right to Remain Innocent. So it's a pleasure to welcome Professor Duane. Tim, good to have you with us. Thanks.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Hey, what about this? Is it true that these bureaucrats have set in something like 500,000 potential crimes that we commit?
Yes. That's a reliable estimate. Part of the problem is nobody knows the exact number, and it probably changes every day.
Well, how do they have the power to do this?
Well, unfortunately, it's because Congress and the Supreme Court have delegated an excessive amount of discretion on the part of federal regulatory agencies to write these regulations that are then incorporated by reference in the provisions of federal criminal statutes that make it a crime to violate any of the regulations. So every time they write a new regulation, even if it's never been reviewed or read by Congress, suddenly there's a new criminal law on the books.
It's a crime to, all right, give me some examples of some of the horribles that are in there. You know a few of them, I'm sure.
Sure. Well, it's a federal crime, for example, to be found in possession of the seeds of a water hyacinth plant that have been transported across state lines, even if you didn't transport them yourself.
A water hyacinth plant?
Yes. Even just for the seeds cannot be crossed state lines. Okay. Or if you run an advertisement in the paper indicating that you are willing to transport hyacinth seeds across state lines, that's a criminal offense too. Here's another one. It's a federal criminal offense to sell or possess margarine in a container if there's more than 1 pound of margarine inside the container. If you split it up into 2 different containers, you're fine. But you put more than 1 pound of margarine in a single container, and you've committed a crime under federal law.
How many years do you get for that?
I think you can get only up to 6 months in a federal prison for that one. But there are countless other examples of the same thing. And the problem is that these are so counterintuitive. Nobody relying only on their God-given common sense would ever imagine that I can go to jail for taking a child to a fight between roosters before his 16th birthday. But you can go to jail for that one, too.
Well, I take a child to a rooster fight before his 16th birthday, I can go to jail.
Don't make that mistake again.
Yeah, well, the last thing I'll do, I'll tell my wife not to take your grandchildren to a rooster fight. Can Trump, by executive order, nullify a great many of them if he wants to?
Yes. Yes. He can. The president, fortunately for all of us, the president has the power to do an awful lot to ameliorate the situation in 2 different ways. Either by directing his agencies to repeal all of these regulations, there are a great number of them, as we know President Trump has already done, or to instruct the Attorney General of the United States to instruct his subordinates to see to it that they exercise their discretion to not bring prosecutions against individuals who are guilty of violating rules and regulations that nobody in their right mind would have ever imagined could have been on the books and that don't pose any danger of harm to anyone. They could do that.
You think anybody will?
That somebody will actually do that?
Yeah.
I think there's a great deal of resistance, to this sort of thing. And it's possible that in the long run, we may see some marginal improvement in the situation, but it's not likely to happen overnight because the part of the problem is that despite all of his powers, there's only so much the president can do to limit the discretion of the untold number of hundreds of thousands of investigative agents who work for the federal government. It's not just the FBI and the DEA. Almost every federal agency now has, as I said, over 100,000 in total, regulatory agents, investigative agents who work for the Department of Land Management and Indian Affairs and the National Park Service and the Library of Congress has its own investigative agents, and they're all out there working full-time trying to prosecute and make cases and to justify their existence by making cases against individuals who are guilty of nothing more than petty offenses.
Do you have any idea what the cost to this nation is of all that stuff? Have you?
We don't know, and I think it's fair to say that nobody knows the exact amount, but it's a staggering sum.
Staggering?
Yes.
I mean, but what does it do to people when they get put in jail under these things? Have we worked out the sociological implications of what it does to the human beings who are prosecuted?
Well, the sociological implications are devastating. Even if we try to comfort ourselves with the knowledge that, we only gave this one 6 months in prison, that's still 6 months of an individual's liberty that has been taken away from them forever. And now that they've got a criminal conviction, if it was a felony conviction, they won't be able to possess a firearm. They've lost their Second Amendment rights. They may not be able to vote again, depending on the laws of that particular jurisdiction. So it's not a small matter to put somebody behind bars, even for just a short time.
You wrote a very intriguing book, You Have the Right to Remain Innocent. You told people not to say anything if they get arrested. Tell us about that.
Well, one of the things, because, the bad news is, as you said in your story, overcriminalization has put us in a situation where every one of us is always subject to being possibly prosecuted for doing something that we didn't know was a crime.
Yeah.
The good news, the silver lining, is that as Congress and the regulatory agencies have grossly expanded the scope of federal law, criminal law, the expanse of the Fifth Amendment at the same time has been expanded so that now you can fairly say under almost any conceivable circumstances that I can't answer questions that are posed to me without warning by any kind of a federal agent because I don't know whether I may be implicating myself in the commission of a crime.
Okay.
So
you're pleading the Fifth on every one of them.
That's my advice to everybody.
It is. Everyone, when somebody is accused of one of these things, you immediately plead the Fifth.
Well, certainly you can't take the risk of admitting you did something and find out later that actually, unbeknownst to you, that the possession of this particular sort of a fish was in violation of the laws of some other foreign nation and that could therefore be prosecuted in federal court. There's a federal law in the books called the Lacey Act that makes it a federal crime for you to be found in possession of any animal or plant or form of wildlife if the possession of that particular item is forbidden under the laws of any other country on the face of the earth. One man was sent to a federal prison because he was found in possession of a Honduran bony fish, the possession of which was not illegal under American law, but the federal government took the position that it was illegal to export such a thing from the Honduras.
Come on, you can't be serious.
In fact, he went to federal prison for that.
He went to prison because he had a bonefish that was illegal in another country in Honduras?
Exactly right. And this is also, I might add, why the Fourth Amendment is now more vital than ever before. If the police officers ask you, do you mind if I search your trunk, you look inside your car, or search your apartment without a warrant, you've got to say no. No, under any circumstances. You don't know what they might find. Did you know that under Virginia law, it is a crime to possess a seashell?
Come on.
It is a crime. Yes, there's a law here in Virginia on the books that says it is a crime to be found in possession of anything that ever was once a part of the carcass of anything that was ever a wild animal. Well, that includes a seashell and a sand dollar and a little necklace with a shark tooth that your granddaughter brought back from the Bahamas.
I can't believe it.
Well, that's why you've got to make sure you don't let the police search your car. They might find something you brought back from the beach by accident.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, the kids are out there on the beach picking up shells all the time, and they're committing crime.
Here in Virginia, there was an actual case where a man was told by investigative agents in the city, in the state capitol, he was found in possession of a couple of antlers that had been shed by deer on his property. They were just, nobody had harmed the deer, much less him. They had been naturally shed. He thought these might look good on my office wall. He picked them up, and he was advised by state agents in Richmond that you can't possess that under state law because that was once part of a wild animal. So the solution, like I said, is to make sure that all of your listeners have an understanding of the fact that the Fifth Amendment and the Fourth Amendment, which have always been indispensable requirements and protections against governmental overreach, are now more important than ever before. I don't mean any disrespect to law enforcement officers. We owe them a tremendous debt of gratitude for what they do for our protection. It's not their fault, but because of the way Congress and state legislatures are out of control, it's absolutely critical now that you don't agree to let the police search your place or that you don't answer their questions.
Is this a syndrome of the left that they want to punish people who don't agree with them, or is this across the board?
I think the problem is across the board. There was a recent Supreme Court case involving one of these crazy prosecutions where Justice Elena Kagan, a well-known liberal, Democratic appointed to the Supreme Court, she said the problem we're seeing in this case is a reflection of what she called a deeper pathology in the American criminal law. She said it was over-criminalization, and the problem we've got way too many laws on the books that are too vague, too overbroad, too ambiguous, with excessive penalties that give the prosecution far too much discretion in deciding how to prosecute what might ordinarily seem like a fairly minor offense.
What do you teach at Regent yourself, Evie? You teach courses on this, I hope?
I'm a man under authority. I do what I'm told. The dean says you teach this class, and I go here and I go there.
I think you've got to teach these things for sure.
Well, we do.
I'll do what I can to make it happen.
I appreciate
your book, can people get a copy of this? You Have the Right to Remain Innocent?
Yes, they can, and they should. It's available on Amazon, which is also the publisher of the book.
Okay. James Duane, You Have the Right to Remain Innocent. What an interesting thing. Please come back, will you? It's good to have you with us.
Certainly, it'd be my pleasure. Thank you
God
very much.
bless you. Thank you. Distinguished professor from that great university, Regent University, Professor James Duane. Terry, wasn't that interesting?
Well, I played the fifth on both the seashell and the antler issue.
That was good, Jim. God bless you, man. Thanks. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Well, up next, the world-famous brothers who've built a fishing empire on the backs of one simple motto.
Teaching America how to catch fish is our business. This was our motto. Yeah. And it was true.
It's true still. That's
that's
our strength. Yeah, that's our strength. Yeah.
The Lindner brothers share their remarkable story of life both on and off the boat. So don't go away.
Well, you're watching the 700 Club, and we're so glad you're with us. Remember, you have a telephone number you can call. If you have a prayer request, you want to tell us something has happened to you, 1-800-700-7000. It's easy to remember. Well, in their youth, Al and Ron Lindner spent weeknights in their basement making fishing lures, and weekends out in the water testing them. The results? The Lindy rig, a better lure, which has been sold more than 70 million times. Whew. It's a true rags to riches story. And as the Linder brothers will tell you, that's not the only one they've experienced.
In the world of fishing, Ron and Al Lindner have been household names for decades. The two brothers built America's largest multimedia sports fishing network on a simple idea.
Teaching America how to catch fish is our business. This was our motto.
Yeah.
That was a motto we used, and it was true.
It's true still. That's our strength.
Yeah.
That's our strength.
Yeah.
They're also teaching America a lot more than just how to catch a fish.
This is the story that God is sharing with you. He's telling you how much He loves you, cares about you, wants to spend eternity with you. That's why He sent His Son Jesus to die for the sins of mankind.
But in the early days, sharing the love of Jesus was the last thing on their minds. Born 10 years apart, the two grew up in a Catholic blue-collar home in Chicago. Nothing could compete with their passion for fishing.
I knew that I knew that I knew when I was 12 years old that I was going to make a living fishing, and I would tell everybody that.
To fund their days on the water, they started making and selling fishing lures out of their parents' basement.
We could go around Chicago to the bait shop, the various sports stores, and we sold them. We had a regular little business going.
We made little jigs, and they were called the Pinky Jig. And it was a great jig to catch crappies and bluegills and white bass in that area.
It's still good.
Then in 1968, Al, a 17-year-old high school junior, and Ron, a 27-year-old husband and father, established the Lindner Manufacturing Company. It was then they came up with their world-famous Linder rig, a design that would revolutionize walleye fishing. But the brothers would have to put their business and dreams on hold when Al was drafted and sent to Vietnam.
He's in Vietnam. I'm praying constantly. Now, I got to explain something to you. Neither of us are born again. He, not at all. I am, at the time, I'm a Christian, quote unquote, but not born again. I believed in God. I believed that Jesus was somehow the Son of God. I didn't know how, and the Holy Spirit, I didn't know nothing. Nothing at all about that.
Sitting in a foxhole with bombs exploding everywhere, Al was also praying.
I knew enough where I cried out to God. I says, look, God, in my words at the time, I says, I don't want to be here. Please, God, get me out of this thing.
Al, of course, made it out alive, but his foxhole prayer quickly faded. Soon he married, started a family, and moved to Minnesota with Ron on their way to making fishing history. But as their lures started landing in tackle boxes across the country and their fishing shows becoming wildly popular, Ron started feeling the pressure. The once casual drinker now needed alcohol to get through the day.
These things happened out of nowhere, and a lot of times, literally to cope with it, I had to take another one.
He was driving home one day after a weekend of drinking when a preacher on the radio got his attention.
I can't argue. I could have argued with somebody, all right, I didn't murder nobody, I didn't rob him. I can't argue that I'm not a drunkard. I am one. And I'm not going to inherit the kingdom of God. That's it.
So Ron didn't resist when his wife, Dolores, invited him to a church revival service.
And he says, do you accept Jesus as your Savior? Yes. Boom. 44 years old. That night, a little town, a little backwoods town in Minnesota, Jesus Christ come and visited me.
And delivered him from alcohol. With a new perspective, Ron and others started talking to his brother about Jesus. But Al quickly cast those ideas aside, even to the point of making excuses for not praying with his kids at bedtime.
Dad prays to God when he's alone with him later tonight. That was my answer, because I didn't know how to pray.
One night, God would use a loving child's simple request to capture a man's heart. It happened as Al was putting his 4-year-old son, Troy, to bed.
Puts like a kiss on my cheek, and he says, Dad, it's just you and I. Can I hear how you pray to God when you're alone with him? It tore me. It tore I got up. I did not know what to say.
Finally, Al opened up his heart to Jesus Christ.
I got up, I walked into the bathroom, and I cried like a baby. And it was at that moment in time that I knew that I mean, all the barriers were gone.
The brothers would go on to sell their business in 1998 and launch a new show called Angling Edge. they're still teaching people how to fish, but more importantly, how to know Jesus Christ.
The Lord laid that on my heart to do this television show after we sold In Fishermen, do it and close, give me glory and honor with the truth of my word in the Bible and close something that I have done in your life.
Today, Ron and Al take a little more time for themselves and their wives, taking up the slack for their children and grandchildren, carrying on the tradition of sharing their passion for fishing and faith in Jesus Christ.
And it's been an amazing blessing, and the glory goes to God in all categories. And he's still blessing the socks off of it.
Yeah.
Jesus promised he'd make us fishers of men if we just followed him. Well, it's wonderful to see the story of Al and Ron, and there's more for you. If you'd like to find out more, pick up a copy of their book. It's really wonderful. It's called Reflections at First Light. If you enjoy God's creation, and if you want to see how they link all of that together with their faith, this is a great book. It's available wherever books are sold. Plus, find out more information on their shows Angling Edge and Fishing Edge by going to cbn.com. Great guys. Well, still ahead, get ready for another round of your questions and some honest answers. One viewer, Rose, says, my husband's mother doesn't believe that I'm a Christian, even though I am. I don't want to be around her. What should I do? Pat weighs in on that and more, so don't go away.
Welcome back to the 700 Club. Evangelist Ann Graham Lotz has been diagnosed with breast cancer. Lotz, the daughter of famed evangelist Billy Graham, announced the news on her website. She learned the diagnosis exactly 3 years after she found her husband unconscious in their pool. He died not long after. Lotz says God reminded her that both those events happened on a Friday between 3 and 3:30 p.m., the same day and time Jesus died on the cross, and that his sacrifice trumps anything the enemy can throw at her. She's asking believers everywhere for prayer. Top leaders from social media companies faced some tough questions on Capitol Hill Wednesday. Google was a no-show, but executives at Facebook and Twitter testified on what they're doing to make sure the foreign interference in the 2016 presidential election doesn't happen in the upcoming midterms or 2020. Both said policy changes have caught and banned millions of malicious accounts over the past year. Meanwhile, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey answered questions regarding potential political bias and censorship across various platforms. Dorsey admitted to mistakes in their algorithms when sifting through content. And you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com. Pat and Terry will be back with more of the 700 Club right after this.
For decades, people in one Thai village have tried and failed to find fresh water. So CBN's drilling team went to work, and what happened next inspired an entire family of Buddhists to believe in Jesus.
Oi's village had been trying to solve its water problem for decades. Their one source of water, a pond, had dried up.
Sometimes I find leeches or earthworms in it. It's not fit for drinking or even washing.
If they wanted water to drink, they had to buy it. But now, to do laundry or take a bath, Oi had to take her kids by motorcycle to another pond far from home.
The water in the pond is very dirty. I often see cow dung there. After their bath, they get skin rashes.
For years, many have tried and failed to dig wells in Oi's village. The drill bits always broke on the bedrock below the surface. Despite many setbacks, Oi and her husband, who are Christians, believe that God would provide a well for them. Their Buddhist relatives felt differently.
Our neighbors and family members were watching, and they said, "It won't work. Not even God can do it."
But Oi, full of faith, asked CBN to give it a try. Then the drilling began.
People were waiting to laugh at us, but all the Christians in our village prayed that CBN would succeed in digging a well.
This time, the drill bit held up and broke through to fresh, clean drinking water.
The Lord made water come out of a rock. We were all very happy. I wanted to cry because I was overflowing with joy.
Oi's Buddha's family members were so amazed by what happened that they prayed to become Christians.
Before, I didn't believe in Jesus, but with my own eyes, I saw the water come out of the rock. Now I know the truth, and I have faith in Jesus.
Oi is delighted that other family members are also coming to church, and everyone is thrilled with the gift of fresh, clean water.
I would call what happened in our village a true miracle. He gave us the water through CBN, and it never runs out. God can do anything.
Can you imagine what it's like to bathe your children in that kind of awful water that was in that pond? And yet that's the way people lived because they had no other option. 700 Club members, I hope you feel a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment when you see the difference you're making, not in the life of one family, but an entire village. And that's just one village. You're making life better for people all around the world every single day and bringing with it the message of God's love. We say thank you. If you're not a 700 Club member, you need to join with the rest of us. You can be a world changer. 65 cents a day, $20 a month makes you a 700 Club member. So will you call now? Even our number is toll free. It's 1-800-700-7000. Just call and say you want to join the 700 Club. Listen, when you do, our thank you to you is to send you Pat's teaching on angels. We've had such tremendous response to this. So inspiring, so knowledge sharing, and we want it to be a part of your spiritual walk. And you can change others at the same time. So call now. Well, we've got some email questions.
All right,
Are you ready?
Let's go for it. Let's go.
All right, this first one comes from Rose, who says, what should I say to my husband's mother, who doesn't seem to believe that I received Jesus into my heart? Her exact words to me, quote, some people have trouble receiving. Well, I forgive her, but I don't want to be around her. I'm not to judge her, but she gossips. I've prayed and asked God to help me to be around her for my husband's sake, but I really don't want to. So he visits her alone.
You know, what do you do with a thing like that? You know, I had a guy around me one time who was from another particular faith community, and he kept coming after me with all this stuff. I said, look, what do you want me to do? I have accepted the Lord. I have been baptized in water twice. I have been baptized in the Holy Spirit. What is it you want to do?
What did he say?
Well, it was kind of like, well, you know, but you've got to use my formula kind of thing. Well, I don't know if this woman, the mother-in-law, is some kind of a cult, that she believes in something that it sounds like it, but may I suggest this? There must be some pastor or somebody that she trusts and that you can talk to her. You don't want to have that rift in your family if you can help it, but no, you don't have to be exposed to somebody who's always giving you grief. We really don't have to do that. You're supposed to love one another, but, you know, you ought to tell her husband, I mean, your husband ought to, you know, it's his mother, and he needs to get her under control, all right?
Okay, this is Jerry, who says, help me with Paul's statement in 1 Corinthians 14, 34 and 35, that women are not allowed to speak in church. I've never been to a church where women were silenced. There are women ministers and others I've heard speaking in tongues with interpretation. Has Paul's instruction been changed somewhere I've not found? I'm not sexist, and I love to hear from my Lord without regard to whether it's a man or a woman. Please educate me.
I think what we've got to recognize is a cultural thing, that in the Jewish tradition, the men sat in one part of the church and the women were sat behind sort of a curtain. It was just sort of like a lattice work. So they were separated and the women weren't allowed to talk in the church. Well, that was a tradition from the old Jewish tradition. And the Apostle Paul was bringing that out in the churches where he was in charge. Now, Jesus Christ made it quite clear that there's no separation between men and women, and he made all of us free in the Lord. And you look at the people, you know, Paul, there were deaconesses in Paul's day. There was Prisca and Aquila. There was a couple who were ministering when Paul came in. So there's a confusion there, and I just think that you've got to say, There's certain things in the Bible that were cultural in the days that they were written, and they don't apply to today, and that's just the way it is. And I know people will think this sounds heretical because you want to take this, the living word, good for all time. But in this case, there is no doubt about that what Paul was expressing was the Jewish tradition of his generation, period.
Okay, this is Brady, who says, "Hi, Pat, I'm 11 years old. The Bible says Jesus never sinned, but he turned over the tables in the temple and was really angry at people. He must have lost his temper. Wouldn't that be a sin?"
Righteous indignation is not a sin. And he saw sin going on in the temple. These people were making merchandise in the house of God, and he was the Son of God, and they were defiling his Father's temple. Now, he was angry at them for doing that, but he's like the righteous judge. Mm-hmm. And it was not a sin, what he did, believe me. And if you are angry at oppression, and you're angry at the mistreatment of one class by another and something like that, that is not a sin. That's righteous indignation.
Okay, a viewer wants to know if you could meet and talk with any person from the Bible other than Jesus, who would it be, and which biblical character do you find to be the most fascinating?
Well, I kind of like Abraham. He stood out, and he was with the Lord, and there's so many of them that you'd like to talk to, but I think Abraham particularly. You asked me which biblical character. Of course, we'd all like to talk to somebody like Paul. He's a great man. There's so many in the Bible who are exemplary that you like to find. But I think Abraham particularly stands out in my mind. Okay.
Yeah. He had a lot of strength in the Lord when everybody else around him didn't. Yeah.
All right, well, today's Power Minute is from John. If anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come and make our home with him. That's all the time we've got. Don't forget the 700 Club on tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.